السلام عليكم. بداية السيشن لو تكرمتوا حضور. Dr. Corey, first, Dr. Spafford, we apologize, he didn't attend today. دكتور سبافورد ما حضر اليوم، نتأسف من الحضور، صارت عنده حالة طارئة، فالدكتور كوري راح يتكلم عنه في الجزئية الخاصة بالدكتور سبافورد. ودكتور كوري he's a professor at Eidوا University, and he is the founder and executive director of the Center for Education and Research in Information Assurance and Security at Eidوا University. Would you please come, Professor?
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I wish to thank the governor and the rector who spoke earlier for their invitation and the hard work of Dr. Khalid and his staff in having me here. The hospitality of the kingdom is famous all over the world, and you have increased its reputation, and I thank you very much. I'm going to be presenting for Dr. Spafford and myself. I have combined our two presentations. Dr. Spafford was unavoidably detained, and for some of you who may know Spaff, he and I do not always agree, and so I have been very careful to ensure that this presentation contains the spirit of what he would have said, even should he disagree with me. And I thought to open this, I would show you a picture taken from my backyard, looking out into the desert that I live in. And I live in absolutely the middle of nowhere. Actually, compared to some parts of Saudi Arabia, I live in a metropolis. But I in fact, live in a very quiet place. And people say that sometimes they see flying saucers moving around where we live and all sorts of strange things. But the one that I thought you might find most interesting is this picture. This is what that same view looks like in the winter. It's all white and all snow. And as a teacher, I try to reduce the amount of snow that my students have to put up with. And one of the things that I have been involved in for the last 20 years of my career has been the development of information assurance and computer security. So I will be talking today about information security research centers, their role, the importance in the future, and then I will also be talking about the information assurance centers and some of the lessons learned and some of the things that we have found out about what we are doing. I came into this field when people wanted to talk about computer security, not necessarily, not necessarily the security of information. And it's been an interesting trip to watch it change because it has become a broader field. One of the things that I firmly believe in is that information assurance is an international program, but there are three elements that one can always define. One can define what industry does, one can define what academia does, and one can define what government does. And all three of them are interdependent, and that interdependence breeds hard problems. If you're in the government, you may want to keep secrets. If you're in academia, you may want to share secrets. And if you're in industry, you may want to do a little bit of both, because every time information moves, somebody makes a profit. And it is so encouraging to see the foresight that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has shown in focusing on information assurance and creating a center of excellence for information assurance, because it makes these hard problems no less hard, but it does make it so that they hook together. We start looking at, industry. We look at critical infrastructure, biotech, research and development, banking and finance. We look at the government side, at the United States, the Department of Homeland Security, maybe law enforcement, the State Department, the Department of Defense, all of those things. But what brings it all together is what King Saud University has decided to do, the centers of excellence. Because academia brings together the educational components to make sure that people do the right jobs the right way, and bring together the research. Because academics aren't always interested in getting the right answer the first time, they're interested in getting the right answer. And as an earlier speaker said, he had to learn to work with academics, that they were not always on the same deadlines that he was. But by building this group of three, by bringing industry, academia, and government together, it does work. All centers of excellence worldwide have to have three core values. They have to be proactive. They have to be thinking about not the attack that happened yesterday, but the attack that may happen tomorrow. They have to be thinking about the way that we make information more valuable in society. They have to be impartial. They cannot take sides in an argument. They have to say, given the facts, based upon what I have seen, based upon the analysis, this is the case. And because of that, they will be trusted. They will, in fact, be something that industry can go to and share their questions, and things that government can go to and share their questions. And the Center of Excellence can respond by providing personnel who can perform tasks and by providing impartial recommendation. If I work for a vendor and you come to me and you say, what product should I buy? Most vendors will say, well, of course, the product that I sell. He would be a fool not to. He might be a little more honest if he said, you might get a better one elsewhere, but he's still going to have to be a businessman. Centers of excellence don't have to do that. They can say, yes, based upon our analysis, this is our impartial analysis, and we can be trusted. The story in the United States, it reflects on what we're doing here. Yesterday in the United States, 15 years ago, there were no standards to speak of dealing with information assurance, particularly those that were not classified by the military. There were sort of guidelines, but no real standards. But an important one is that there were no faculty. Dr. Spafford and I were approached by the government to say, will you bring together all of the academicians in the United States who are not teaching cryptography, because they know where most of the cryptographers are, and bring them together for a meeting. And they reserved a room this size. We could have held the entire meeting in the first 3 rows, because no one in the United States was really teaching it. They were teaching strictly cryptography. And because of that, there were no students. Dr. Spafford produced an article where he said, looking at major universities in the United States, there were fewer than 10 doctoral students studying computer security or information assurance. Half of them were not U.S. nationals, and so only 5 of them might be able to work for the U.S. government, and 4 of them went to work for industry. 1 went to work for the U.S. government, and 2 faculty quit teaching to go to work for industry. Net loss of 1. So there was a problem that had to be addressed. The National Institute of Standards, NIST, and the National Security Agency recommended a clearinghouse approach, some way of bringing everybody together. They didn't know it at the time, but they were talking about